this administration today, here and now, declares unconditional war on poverty in America. Our chief weapons in a more pinpointed attack will be better schools and better health and better homes and better training and better job opportunities to help more Americans, especially young Americans, escape from squalor and misery and unemployment roles where other citizens help to carry them. Very often, a lack of jobs and money is not the cause of poverty, but the symptom. The cause may lie deeper in our failure to give our fellow citizens a fair chance to develop their own capacities, in a lack of education and training, in a lack of medical care and housing, in a lack of decent communities in which to live and bring up their children. Our aim is not only to relieve the symptom of poverty, but to cure it, and above all, to prevent it. For this is not merely an economic issue, or a social, political, or international issue. It is a moral issue, and it must be met by the passage this session of the bill now pending in the House. So I ask you now, in the Congress and in the country, to join with me in expressing and fulfilling that faith, in working for a nation that is free from want, and a world that is free from hate. A world of peace and justice and freedom and abundance for our time and for all time to come.
How did America go from a nation that made it through the Great Depression to a nation that's now moving into the greatest depression in worse shape than it's ever been before?
We have a collapse around us, an economic collapse, a global economic collapse.
It's a class war of corporations to shift the burden onto people, and of the richest citizens to shift it on to everybody else.
We have undergone a coup d'etat in slow motion, and they've won, and we've lost.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Another increase in poor nation aid. The World Bank said yesterday that it would almost triple lending this year to help prevent a, quote, human crisis in developing countries amid the turmoil in financial markets.
Machiavelli said, the reason there will be no change is because the people who stand to lose from change have all the power. And the people who stand to gain from change have none of the power. Machiavelli was describing the global aid system today.
We can't continue to talk about the tragedy of poverty and not talk about aid.
The foreign aid amounted to a huge subsidy, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Tom Shoes found the right model that captured this love of people who want to be generous and helpful.
Our donations have an unpredictable impact on the local economy. Why would you go buy something? It's for free.
Emergency disaster relief has become the permanent model.
After 40 years, if you're still here, there's a problem.
What happened to our cotton farms? That's all gone because of the negative impact of the imports at a second-hand level.
We rich countries that produce a lot of food should sell it to poor countries. It has not worked.
It actually created more poverty.
We don't need one more celebrity doing one more campaign. What we need is to no longer be excluded.
No one wants to be a beggar for life.
I know about countries that developed on trade and innovation and business. I don't know of any country that got so much aid and they suddenly became a first world country.
If you really want to help the poverty industry as we know it, has to go.
Aid creates dependency. More aid and more aid and more aid.
We've seen that aid has subsidized dictators, encouraged inefficiency. Most of the money for aid doesn't actually get to the poor.
Aid has delayed the development of business in Africa. It has kept Africa behind.
It becomes a way of colonizing the economies of the poor countries, a system of economic slavery.
You create that parental relationship. It's patron-client, it's master-slave, it's all broken.
These are the strategies of the last 50 years, and they failed for 50 years, and they're going to continue to fail. It's time to change.
If the African nations today agreed together and say no more aid, I tell you they can grow slowly, but they can grow.
Economic transformation in the long term come from locally run, locally owned businesses.
We need to transform our good intentions into things that actually work. And what works is allowing these individual human beings, created in the image and likeness of God, to create value and prosperity for themselves.
We are working to train people into entrepreneurship and be disciples of God in transforming their own nation.
I've seen that. I've seen that through my business.
We are here to meet up front these challenges we face.
Entrepreneurship should become something that is the language and the life of our day-to-day. Economies can grow.
Anything is possible.
And it's high time we stop telling our people they can't do it. Yes, we shall do it in the name of God.
There's a false notion that poor countries are poor because rich countries are rich, and that somehow there's a justice requirement that wealthy countries have to transfer money from developing countries' taxpayers to developing countries.
They think they owe the poor people to give them money without thinking about how they are going to use this money.
What Africans need are not handouts. What all people need are the foundations to allow them to live out their freedoms and live out their responsibilities, to fail and to succeed.
We need to be able to move from aid to production, from existing to living.
It is the way it was meant to be, for us to leverage our communities out of poverty. People have the dignity of putting food on their table, shelter, health is provided, education is provided for their children.
Good intentions don't end poverty. Enterprise and freedom end poverty.
When you have the opportunity to touch hearts, to touch meaning, to touch purpose, to touch identity alongside helping an individual get out of physical poverty, that's where you see incredible transformation.
Every simple person, the homeless standing there who doesn't know where he is, there is a soul there. There is God who have made them. Is an act of God.